Welcome back and welcome to the marketplace. Tonight we look at how turning talent into money. How can the youth do it? Turning talent into money is something a lot of Kenyan youth struggle with. Tonight we delve into the story of Kua Huru, a Kenyan poet and author who has had to diversify his skills and transform his prowess to eke out a living during these trying economic times. Take a look. The world of creativity is often unpredictable and tumultuous. In this studio, a group of Kenyan youth are using multiple means to make a living from their passion.
Poetry is not mainstream. It has not been mainstream for a long time. So the challenge is trying to expand the market and also sharing that form of art with more people.
Having the skills and ability they have come to learn is never enough.
Honestly, I've not had a lot of confidence with the government monetizing art because they don't even understand it. So how do you monetize something you don't even understand? That's why they would send us 2,500 after a lot of work. Like, producing one audio costs you 20,000. That's audio, at least 20,000 quality. Zingine zinaenda hadi 50,000. One video would cost you 200,000. Mseme kwa ofisi 8 to 5 for the whole month, and then you pay them. That's really, they really have the wrong way of going about monetizing art. It's and they need advice. They need advice and they need a lot of insight before they can come and say, now this is how we are monetizing your art, this is how you're making money from it. Because I prefer making money from just my own ways, selling my own ways.
They must employ new strategies to make a name for themselves in the world of art and within the creative industry.
Actually, poetry has a lot of opportunities in monetization. But before you get there, again, it goes to in any business, the product in a matter. So as long as the audience wants the product, they are willing and also able to pay for that product. So it also depends with branding. It's been a crazy journey. It's been a crazy journey before getting to monetization, but now, being in the industry for a couple of years, now I'm able to see the different opportunities, actually able to see we are able to expand even the market beyond just Kenya, not just in Nairobi. I mean, it is like there's now we're able to share poetry with other countries, with other artists, even other poets that we mentor have been able to go and perform outside Africa. So that's a good thing in terms of monetization.
Their sole plea, a conducive environment that allows for growth and policy guidelines that are malleable enough to bend and mold to the waves of creativity.
There's so many ways you can make money from the art, but you also have to understand the value of the craft you're creating. Yeah. You sell out. Don't sell out, but also again, don't make it impossible for people to access art, because manzei art ni priceless. As much as utasema utaitisha ido, pia bado ni priceless too. Wasi wanafaa wa experience art na wa share art in different ways.
A story by Kua Huru talking about his journey as an artist and how he has been trying to make more from his art form. Dr. Tony, the Kenya National Innovation Agency, of course, has an approach that is trying to help the youth who are trying to monetize from their talent. The unemployment rate right now is 35% of the youth cannot access employment. For a young Kenyan like him, what exactly or what innovative measures can he take to monetize from his particular talent?
Thanks very much for having me here. I represent the National Innovation Agency as the CEO, but more importantly, I'm coming from the Ministry of Youth, Arts and Sports, and for that reason I'm sure that question even expands beyond the innovation space. So we just straight to go to your question is, in innovation, we have a simple definition around that. It's about change that adds value. The value is that which you're trying to do, but you probably would end up doing it a bit differently so that then you can get more results and more outputs. A classic example based on the case that we've just had is, can you use technology as a way of getting your message out faster, cheaper, more effectively to a wider audience, and so on and so forth. Now, government also has mechanisms of providing policy, infrastructure, in some cases funding, in some cases access to market, and so forth. So ability also to leverage what already exists can help amplify what you want to do with a lot of ease. If I look, for example, at the Youth Council, which has thousands of followers online, if I look at a facility like Presidential Music Commission, which has a lot of facility that you can use for free, if leveraging some of the government infrastructure can help advance the agenda. The third thing I would think about in this particular case is, the marking scheme for success in this case is not what I think is right. In other words, I'm the person developing something, I think it is right, or a teacher thinks it's right, then I get a grade. The reality is a bit different in the sense that the consumer is actually the one who tells you if you're right. And so this is part of why development of skills around user-centeredness or design thinking for that matter, in other words, putting yourself into the shoes of the consumer, helps you to design something that will mostly fit. Either you're reducing a certain pain point or you're creating some excitement or new value in the person. And if the person is then willing to come and consume the product again, then you're getting it right. That becomes your marking scheme. So the question will now be, am I creating something in my room based on what I think? When we are very exceptional, we can get it right. But in many times, it's about the feedback that I will get from a real consumer. So these are some 3 key points I could think about: technology, leveraging government or even private sector infrastructure and facilities, and thirdly, and digital platforms. And then thirdly, being as user-centered as possible, as practically possible. There are constraints in terms of time and resources, and that's fine, but as a principle, it's important to keep that in mind.
Right, Dr. You've talked about positioning yourself, which I think is very important, and even Kua Huru was talking about how you must ensure that whatever product you're bringing out, whatever business it might be, you position yourself in the way that matters the most to your target audience. Dear Gracious, about managing yourself. The youth do have skills, they do have talent, but there seems to be a disconnect between how they use those talents to get money. How can the youth fill this gap?
Thank you. Just picking up from where Dr. left, I think it's very, very important that in defining the kind of value in terms of the products that the young people are developing, there has to be a defined value that addresses either a problem or provides a solution. And even in providing entertainment, it's a solution. If you're creating music, then you're definitely making me entertained. So it's very critical then that the young people are able to define their niche. That's very critical. Their niche then helps them know who exactly is the kind of client or the kind of market they want to get their niche into. And then with that, there's an aspect of innovation. What makes it unique? Because everyone else is out here singing, whether it is on TikTok, for instance, or everyone out here is trying to do poetry, just like the amazing gentleman. But most importantly is what makes yours very unique. And then with that in mind, usually I look at youth development broadly beyond the ability to do something. So it's one thing for me to know how to draw art. It's another thing for me to have the right kind of mindset to actually think about building 1, 2, 3 pieces, starting small while selling, and building a business. And critically is another thing for me to actually have the right business skills. And we are not born with these business skills. We need to learn. So usually I encourage young people and also development partners and other even government and public players to appreciate that young people need to be invested in within their space. Young people are already like 3 steps ahead of us right now. While we are thinking, they need this kind of education, like Dr. says, we no longer have the power to judge and define success for them. But can we meet them at where they are? And mostly in 3-pronged kind of approach. The young people have their abilities through their talent, through their skill set. but they need a lot of some life and soft skills training to actually package that and package a brand. And then they need support in terms of learning business. How do I find a client who fits the kind of product I'm offering so that I decide to go on Facebook and not Instagram or on Twitter? Can I market on Twitter? Would my product run from there? And then critically is, I think being very authentic is critical. It's a journey. I would tell young people it's a journey in building your brand. Be authentic and be patient with yourself.
Right, dear gracious, and maybe I can just throw it back to you, and Daktari will engage you as well. If you could just tell us, you've talked about soft upskilling. What exactly is this soft upskilling? And maybe even after he speaks, bringing in innovation into this soft upskilling, how can I, as a youth, make sure I position myself in such a way that whatever my competition may be, I am in the best position to make the most out of my situation? Let's start with you.
Great, thanks. Before a business grows, it's the person and their own abilities and skills. And this person eventually becomes a brand, and then an entity grows out of that is called a business. So the person has to be ready. Traditionally, we used to talk about techie guys, guys in technology as behind the scenes. And so we used to, whenever we see someone walking in a t-shirt and probably pajamas, we're like, oh, that's a techie guy. Gone are the days when we are thinking of it like that, because it's one thing for them to develop a technology product. It's another thing for them to come out and present and sell that product. So when you talk the softer skills, we are saying, are we as young people, or are we supporting young people to actually develop the right mindsets? When you talk growth mindset, when you're building a brand, don't want to be the next, Zuckerberg of Facebook tomorrow. It is a journey. You don't want to be the next successful person making $1 billion in the next 3 weeks. So the growth mindset to encourage yourself that it's a business growing and they have to define a market is great. But with that comes also the persistence and the consistency. These are the kind of soft skills I would talk about beyond the technical innovation.
Right, dear gracious. And maybe, Daktari, let's, of course, as you answer that question, let's talk about innovation for a bit. You've spoken about how the government has innovation hubs, and of course there's a lot of infrastructure that is aimed at helping the current unemployment status. If maybe you could just give us a little bit of insight on that.
Okay, thanks very much. Let's come a little bit into the soft skills and how innovation probably fits there. And then we'll come into the infrastructural support and so on and so forth. First, like I said, many people always think about innovation as some hard, technical, real thing. Do you know you can innovate the way you speak? You can actually innovate the way you present yourself. You can innovate the way you give your countenance, facial expressions, the way you write, the way you communicate, the way you cook, the way you arrange your kitchen, the way you arrange your bedroom. You can innovate. Like I said, for us, innovation is change that adds value. If it will make something better, faster, more efficient, more effective, more accessible, and so on and so forth. Therefore, you can innovate the way you position yourself. Graphics design, we talk about that all the time. It makes things more appealing and more good looking. You're innovating in the delivery. So the soft skills that we're talking about, the soft elements, is simply how can I be more effective? And remember the marketing scheme. It is the person being willing to take my product not just once, twice, thrice, and becomes a repeating customer. So that's the spirit behind it. But let's come to the, and by the way, you probably know about the Talanta Hela concept of the ministry, where the CS is championing aggressively for us to, and that's a brand, by the way. It's already a brand. How do you commercialize? And there are many elements that we can talk about that are making that Talanta Hela, and we'll come to it. But in terms of infrastructure, you see, the government, and first of all, innovation does not thrive just because government has put infrastructure. It is a component. In any case, there is also a lot of infrastructure by private sector. So there are innovation hubs, there are technology transfer offices in universities, IP management offices, there are incubation centers, there are accelerators, there are youth empowerment centers, and they all vary in terms of characteristics. Venture development firms exist of different characteristics with different intentions. But at the end of the day, you're trying to scout for an idea, add value to that idea, and create money out of that idea. And that's what this infrastructure is trying to provide. The infrastructure really is like a womb, really, in a way. It's like it's insulating you from some of the harsh realities that you would have to deal with, how much rent you pay, whether you'll be able to access other people coming around and adding value to your ideas, and so on and so forth. So I would really encourage, look around in your neighborhood. It could be a government-led, it could be a county government-led, it could be a private sector-led, it could be an academic institutions-led. There is value in hanging around these facilities because you easily build networks and a support system that then enables you to easily, a little faster, move forward. Not to say it'll be easy, but at least you get a little bit of help along your way.
I'm glad, Daktari, that you brought up Talanta Hela, and of course the creative economy is a very lucrative, particularly, it's a very lucrative sector. If we could just have a little bit of information on that, it contributes at least 5.3% of the gross domestic product, which the global average is around 7%, 6.1%, 6.1 to 7%. We're still below that. As a country that brags about being, very young, very youth-centric, do you think that we would ever catch up?
I think we will catch up and surpass. It's all about strategy and it's about ambitions and targets. So as an innovation agency, we are now working on a 10-year master plan for innovation.
Graphics.
Because you have to be very intentional. What is it that you're strong at, and what targets are you working towards? And the ministry, for example, is working on strategic direction. For your information, it's a new ministry. It's brought in several components together. And this is what is interesting. In the Ministry of Youth, Arts and Sport, where we speaking about Talanta Hela, you find the Sports Academy there. You find the Kenya Copyright Board there. You find the Kenya National Innovation Agency there. You find the Presidential Music Commission there. You find the Film Commission, Film Classification. All these are coming together because talent is not just creatives. It is fashion. It is music. It is film, and so on and so forth. Now, we've got this in one umbrella. And the next question now, in terms of where we are headed, is frame yourself as a country where we want to go, and that's why the brand of Talanta Hela is shaping up, and strategic direction is being framed, so that then we enhance, one, the identification of talent. And you have to leverage technology to actually achieve that. How do we aggressively and effectively access talent from all the millions of youth that we're talking about? And they are all diverse. Second is, how do we develop that talent? And third, how do we ensure that that talent commercializes, not just locally, but internationally? And again, this also is going to require technology and infrastructure.
Right, Daktari, and of course we have a few factors of the creative economy running on your screens at the moment. We're talking about how the creative economy or the orange economy is going to increase to 20% from the current 5.3% in the next 5 to 7 years. We've talked extensively about Talanta Hela. Dear gracious, if maybe I could just pick your brains a little bit. The creative economy represents about 7% of total employment. We have 35% of the youth who make up for 14 million Kenyans at the moment who are unemployed. How do you think then, after all these discussions that we've had, how do you think that they can increase this so that we have more people earning a kind of stable income per month?
Thank you. I think I need to celebrate the ministry. I like when Daktari says the new ministry.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of the strides and actually appreciating that young people are getting to at the intersection of technology and creatives. So facilitating that is great. From where I sit, I see thousands, if not millions, of young people trying to put their talents and their creativity out there. But I feel like we can do better if then we look at private, public and development partner kind of partnerships in the context of enabling the existing facilities to actually speak the youth language.
Right.
And enabling the young people, as I said earlier, to also realize that they need to panel beat themselves in terms of the right mindsets and the right soft skills. And I'm not saying they are not doing it, they are great, but we have to facilitate that. And third, tell me, every time you walk on the city in Nairobi on weekends, you see very many young people with cameras of late. I celebrate the governor for opening that up. However, that is telling us something. Where are these young people on Monday? Where are they on Tuesday? Where are they on Wednesday? Are they idle or are they creating something? Why are they on the streets with the cameras? There is an opportunity there and not a gap. Yes, it's a gap of, there's something that they're telling us already, and that is They definitely need this space, the platform, they need the facilities, and it gets very expensive if they are not supported.
Thank you so much, dear gracious. And as we start to conclude this very interesting topic that I think a lot of people are getting insights from, conclusively, Daktari, the ministry that is centered around the youth. Of course, there are all these things, but the youth are still asking, how can I make money? What would you tell them?
How can I make money? So this is the term commercialization. You're trying to create commercial value out of what you have. I think it starts with, what is my talent? What is it that I'm good at? What is it that I do easily without so much effort? Second, how can I package it in a way that someone will be willing to consume it? And who is this person who can consume it in a way that they can pay? Yeah? It may not be that person paying. Maybe the user might not be the one that is paying. It could be somebody else that is going to pay. So in other words, consistently I have to ask myself, what is the pain that I'm actually going to solve? Or what is the new value that I'm going to create that people would want to pay? Right. All right? That question has to be consistently asked. Then, of course, naturally, for you to develop ideas, you need some resources. Yeah? Time is one resource, but then financial resource is another. And then, of course, the infrastructure that you need then to nurture these ideas. And infrastructure is accessible in one way or another, either from a partner or from a government or from an institution and so forth. And then talent, as we've just kind of described, has got to be managed and developed into maturity. The point is, you have to keep searching a customer.
Right, right. Daktari, dear gracious, one final parting shot, just a sentence for the youth.
Young people need to appreciate themselves and know that they are not a problem to be solved. They are a resource. They should start demonstrating they are resourceful, and all of us should actually be investing in exploring and unlocking that kind of potential for them.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Marketplace this particular Wednesday. We've gotten a lot of insights. The youth that are watching this, of course, are seeing how they can monetize on their skills. Unemployment is a pandemic, an epidemic that we're dealing with as a country. And maybe as we conclude, Stanley, if you could just tell us, how are you using your skills to earn a living?
As a voiceover artist, I definitely use my skills, but then I'm really told by our time is up. So asante sana for having this particular discussion. We do this every single Wednesday. My name is Stanley Irungita.